We're on. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the sixth edition. Welcome to the sixth edition of Hello Zafigo, which is the final episode of this season. But don't worry, those of you who are hooked on Hello Zafigo, don't worry, there will be a season 2, just like TV. But we're taking a short break to think about what is going to grab you the next season. So today, I'd like to welcome all of you here on Zoom and also on Facebook Live. I know there are many regulars who are joining us again today, even from places like Perth and elsewhere. But I also like to welcome all the new people who have joined us. If you've missed the past sessions of Hello Zafigo, you can find them on the Zafigo website, zafigo.com website. Just look for Hello Zafigo and you'll find the recordings there. So you can look back because we've had some really interesting people, really interesting chats. The last one, we had Yuna and Nicole David. I mean, what a combination. It was terrific. So today we are going to talk about independence. Why? Because we're coming up to August, which, as you know, is the Merdeka month, independence. But also we want to talk about solo travel, which is the trending way of travel pre-MCO, of course, pre-COVID. It was the growth area in travel. You'd never believe it, especially if you've never traveled alone before. But 11% of all travel are solo travelers. Lots and lots of people are traveling on their own, and it's been an upward trend since 2016. And believe it or not, two interesting facts. A lot of not all solo travelers are millennials, because you think, oh, millennials are the ones that are so brave, wants to go out and travel on their own. There's also baby boomer solo travelers like me. But I haven't done any solo travel for a while. But anyway, it goes right across the board. All sorts of people are deciding to just up and go on their own for many reasons, and you will find out all the reasons when you listen to our speakers today. The other interesting fact about solo travel is that 84% of solo travelers are women. So women are really, women are really becoming more adventurous, braver, and just wanting to go out and do their thing and travel on their own, simply because very often it's easier and you don't have to rely on anyone else. So today we have an amazing session, which by the end hopefully will convince you to travel solo once, of course, it's safe to do so, once all this COVID thing goes away. But it's okay, we can dream now, we can plan now if we want. So I have two wonderful, wonderful speakers. I know them both very well from past Zafigo X, which were our events where we got lots of people to come and talk about their travels. One of them, Priscilla Patrick, is a pioneer Zafigo X alumni because she was on our first Zafigo X event before it was even really called Zafigo X in Penang in, when was it, Pris? 2016?
Yeah, about 4 years ago. Yeah, 2016. Yeah, at the Georgetown Festival.
That's right. And Mei Chu was Zafigo X alumni from 2018.
Yes, I believe so.
2018. Now I'm going to introduce them, but you just heard Priscilla's voice. And if that sexy voice is familiar to you, it's because she's been telling you where to drive, where not to drive in the morning for ages. She's the traffic person. She's the voice that tells you where the traffic jams are in KL and everything on Rakita channel, Rakita FM,
Yes.
107.9, and she's been guiding you where to go. So must have been a bit strange during the MCO when there was no traffic to talk about, right, Chris? Were you still on?
Actually, I was. Yes, I am. I was. We had our letters from the ministry, and I still went into work as per normal. But what I did was I was reporting all the roadblocks. So there were frontliners that required to go into work, and I think they needed to know where the roadblocks were and the congestion and how long it took because every car was being checked. So that came in handy for them. Yeah.
Right. Great. See, a real service to all of us drivers. But when Prince is not telling you about the traffic, she's a traveler. She's a big time traveler. Been traveling mostly solo, sometimes with friends, but mostly solo, right?
Yeah.
Around the world for yonks. And this are some of her achievements. She's been to 59 UN member countries, 4 non-UN member countries. In case you thought there weren't any countries that were not in the UN, there are Taiwan, Reunion Island, Hong Kong, and Antarctica. She's been on all the 5 oceans, been to 5 mountain ranges, and been on all 7 continents. How's that for statistics? I guess, when you're always talking about statistics on traffic, I guess that also applies to your travel. But she's had all sorts of amazing adventures, which she'll tell us about and how she survived them, including things that, you'd think we'd never survive. But she's one of those people who's got her wits about her, right? All the time, and she'll tell us a bit more about that. Our other speaker, Mei Mei Chu, is so well traveled that she even writes about it. She is a award-winning travel blogger on meimeichu.com, and she's been traveling since age 18. So I won't say how long ago that was because you don't want people calculating things, right? And her travel blog is where she shares intimate and honest stories from the experiences of traveling solo while being Asian and feminine and female. And several highlights, been to the US, to Egypt, to Tonga, and she's swum with humpback whales. I don't know how big humpback whales are, but I imagine they're huge.
So big, like bus, like swimming next to a bus. It's insane.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And also seen the best and worst of humankind. And I think that's something that happens when you get out of your comfort zone. Sometimes you see things or you experience things which aren't great, but then something comes along and redeems humanity, right, in your eyes. So today we're going to talk about traveling solo. I'd just like to mention also that Mei Mei was the winner of the Site of the Year at the Malaysia Website Awards 2017. So she knows what she's talking about and she knows how to tell you all about it. And so both of you, let me start with some very basic questions. By the way, all of you in the audience, we've muted you and we've turned off your videos simply because then we can just concentrate on our speakers and we won't get interrupted because sometimes, if your mics are on and even if you just sneeze, we'll hear it. and that kind of makes us lose focus, yeah, when we do that. So, but don't worry, because at the end, we'll ask you to turn on all your videos so that if you want, we can take a group photo just to record the moment. Also, if you have questions, we will certainly welcome questions. Please put them on the chat. So, and I will go through them, and I will pick out the questions to ask both Meme and Priscilla. I'm sorry, those of you who are watching on Facebook, we're only looking at questions on Zoom. However, some of the Zafigo team will be on Facebook, and if you do have a super interesting question, burning question, they'll put it on Zoom as well. We'll try to answer that as well. Okay, so we're set, and I'm going to start now with some questions. So let me ask Mei first. Okay. So Mei, you were young at 18, and I remember being 18, and I have daughters who, well, they're a bit older now, but I can't imagine as a mother letting my daughter go off at 18 to travel on their own. But what made you decide on that? Did you just suddenly, I mean, did it take a long time to decide that you're going to go on your own, or was it circumstance or what?
It was actually the other way around. I was 18, and we knew that I was going to be studying in Malaysia fully. So my brother was in the US, and he was working as a chef. And he was the one who told my parents, hey, we should bring May over so she gets a bit of international experience, see the world a little bit. So I was the one who was really nervous to go. And my parents were the one who actually packed my bags for me and put me on the plane on my own. And from then on, I had to navigate everything on my own. So it was actually my parents who unwittingly planted this seed of solo traveling. They thought I would be with my brother all the time, but he was busy working. So I had to figure things out on my own and explore the town on my own, and I was solo traveling by accident. I think it started by accident.
Very brave of your parents, because there's still the journey, right, from here to get there. It's a long way for you to go on your own, no?
Yeah, it was a very long journey. It was my first time flying alone. I didn't really know how it worked, so I had to figure things out on my own. I almost missed my flight because they changed the gate at the last minute. I didn't know to check. And flying back from San Francisco to Malaysia, I didn't even read the flight ticket properly. So I read AM as PM. And I went there and your flight left 12 hours ago.
Common mistake.
Yeah. That was my first time traveling, so I forgave myself.
Right. But these are the little things you pick up, right? Like I'm trying to understand a 24-hour clock, for instance. What is 23 hours? So AM and PM are very important to know. But but you've been to how many countries since?
I don't know. I don't really count. Not as much as Priscilla, of course. Maybe like close to 20 plus countries. Maybe I don't really count the number of countries I've been in.
Right. And which has been your favorite or easiest to navigate
easiest to navigate? Maybe New Zealand, because they have very good facilities, very clear signs. My favorite so far have to be Tonga, which I went to swim with humpback whales.
Right.
But I was also taking a boat. It's a 24-hour boat from one island. Like it's a multiple islands in Tonga. So I was taking from the main island to Tonga Tapu to Vavau. It was a 24-hour boat, and it was just so nice because everyone was sharing food and just chilling out and playing music. And then I stopped to talk to a random, this grandfatherly looking man, asking him, oh, what's the name of that island? And he invited me to stay with his family after that, because they were so worried that I was traveling on my own, and they saw me talking to other men, and they were like, you shouldn't be talking to these other guys, they're dangerous. I've asked my wife, why don't you come and stay with us? So they adopted me for a week, and it was just wonderful.
But why Tonga? I mean,
I
it's
was
not
in New
the first
Zealand.
thing.
Oh, I was in New Zealand and I wanted to check out Polynesia. And I was actually looking for a flight to Fiji. At the last minute, I'm like, I can't go to Fiji. There's humpback whales in Tonga you can swim with. Like, why not? So it was just a spur of the moment thing, and I bought the flight
Right,
on sale.
right. But do you find that where people look at you traveling alone and get the same protective feeling, or I mean,
I only
no.
get the protective feeling from maybe like elderly, grandfatherly men with daughters, because maybe they
Right.
empathize with that. But when
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
alone, I'm on the street, I'm walking, you get people coming up and giving you all these weird invites. Come and stay at my hotel. I have an extra bed. My bathroom is very big. Come and stay in my cave. You can have party with my family in my cave. And I like weird invites all the time. And you kind of have to sort of
So do you think that you kind of need some sort of intuition to know who's okay and who's not okay, and
Yes.
what how do you judge that?
Oh, definitely. If it's just a random man on his own, I would just try and shrug him off politely. But in the case of that guy in Tonga, that uncle John, his name was, he had his wife with him, and he had his granddaughter with him, and he purposely asked his wife's permission before coming to me, and I met all of them, so I felt safe with them. They even took me to church and had an English sermon for me. That was insane.
So that you could understand.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I'll go to Pris for a while. So, Priscilla, did you start off, okay, how do you start off traveling solo yourself? And did you start off with these like goals that you wanted to achieve? Like, I want to do 7 continents or whatever.
So actually, in 1997, I was yahooing the days before Google. I was yahooing about the full moon, and because I have a passion of the moon and the stars, and I came along the full moon party, and I said, "What is this about?" And I took the bus from Kota Raya into Hat Yai. It was 23 hours of traveling by bus and speedboat. And then I got to this island, and there was this massive rave party, and I met a lot of travelers, and it started from there. And in the end, in the next 4 years, I'd gone for the full moon party 16 times, 4 times a year. Every 3 months, I would go 4 times a year.
Are they all different, or are they all the same? And do you meet the same people?
Back then in the 90s, it was different. And then I think the last I went was 2008, and I said I will never go back again. But yeah,
why?
it's just too commercialized now. Back then it was, you had real hippies there. Yeah, and like really good music. So yeah, and then
real hippies. Now they're not real hippies, or what?
Wannabes with selfie sticks.
Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, carry on.
And from there, from Thailand, it just grew to Southeast Asia, and I found myself just packing my clothes and just going. And of course, when I first started, for a 2-week holiday, I took 14 t-shirts. I can't believe it.
I would, one a day.
No, I mean, when I did the Antarctica for 5 weeks, I took 5 t-shirts for the entire trip. So yeah, I've come a long way in the 2 decades of knowing how to pack. But yeah, it's just the liberty of looking at the world map and saying, okay, where should we go? And so I toyed a lot with Southeast Asia for the first 5 years, 6 years, and then it, the radius just got bigger and bigger, and then one thing led to another, and I found myself wanting to go to, but the passion is only towards third world countries. I'm not a keen fan of cities, with some exceptions of countries like New Zealand and Bhutan. But third world countries are really beautiful to go to.
Why is that? Why is that?
People are real, situations are real, what you see is real. And when you help someone, it goes a long way. You're actually helping families as well. So yeah, especially.
How do you help? You mean through just your tourist dollars?
Oh no.
Do you actually do something?
Like when I was in Nepal, I saw this kid watching me every morning having breakfast, and I had a chat with him and asked him why are you not in school? so early in the morning, and he said, oh, his parents split, and he gave me a story. And then I decided to speak to the restaurant owner, and I organized a meal for him every day at that time at 8 in the morning. And I think the standard staple diet is dal bhat. And so I paid for
What is that?
dal bhat is like rice, dal, and 3 different kinds of vegetables.
Uh-huh.
It's a daily staple diet for most Nepalis.
Right.
And so I paid for 1 month's food for him. And I told the restaurant owner, I said, you could cheat me, you could not serve him his food, but karma will come and get you, and then your business will probably die, and just feed God. So, yeah.
You're so gangster.
No, yeah, no, but So over the years, I've learned it's a blessing to be able to travel alone, to walk into a country and discover the country, and as such, you must give back. And so paying it forward is one of the ways of doing it. You can either buy a meal for another traveler or for a local, or you can do anything you want to do. That's the liberty of your own, of traveling alone, Yeah.
Right. So, most people are really wary of traveling alone, right? Both Mimi and Pris, because you do hear about things happening. So, we don't want to gloss over these things. And I know you've both had things happening to you all that some of it are human and some of it non-human. Priscilla, I know that you were actually caught in the tsunami. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Which part would you like to know?
Well, whichever is, not many people get caught in tsunamis.
Yeah, it's true. It happened on Boxing Day in 2004, and it was the eve of the day before I actually left Sri Lanka to come back to KL, and I was supposed to make my way to the airport that night on the 26th. It's a 4-hour drive, and the next morning I was catching my flight out. So 26th morning I woke up, and I still do wake up every morning at 4:45 because of my job, but that's the body clock. So I got up and I opened up my Christmas presents, and I was reading a book, and I heard this lady outside. She was screaming, and the third scream was the "I am going to die" scream. When I opened the balcony door, I was living on a cabana with raised floors. It's with thatched roofs. Basically, it's a kampong chalet lah. And in front of, about 10 steps in front of me, was a 3-foot wall, and you just have to put your legs across, and it's the ocean, the beach, and you can walk. But that day, when I opened the door, the water was at eyes level of the 3-foot wall.
Right.
And so I was looking at it and I was thinking, yesterday's full moon must have, raised the ocean water. And I was trying to do the math. But then when I came out and I looked at the shoreline, I could see about a kilometer away, just, tiny cabanas being blown up. And then when I looked in front of me, you can't tell the water is rising because there isn't a height behind the water to compare to. And so when it's too late and your neck is going up, and then you realize it's here. But before it even hit me, water was already coming over the 3-foot wall, and the motorbike I'd rented the night before just got swept out. And then the whole thatched cabana started to shake and vibrate, and all the nails on the floor started to pop up. And I was with my schoolmate, an old friend of mine, and it was absolute silence between us. And I said, grab the bag with the passports and the plane tickets and the wallet. And we opened the cabana door again. There was no balcony, there was no wall. It was just ocean coming, and it was getting dark because the water had risen so high. It blocked sunlight, and it was dark brown water, and it was getting warm. The water was quite warm. And my friend said, jump. And I said, I can't swim. She said, just jump. And before I could jump, the whole cabana just crashed into the water. And then we were, I lost contact with my friend. But I don't know if you've seen those documentaries with when people go surfing, and then there's a tube inside the water.
Yeah.
So I was in that tube. And so I could see the toilet bowl came past me, the wall had fallen on me. I had gashes on my body, my arms. And then came that point, I said, okay, I gotta get up to breathe. And As I tried to go up, I was like, no way, the current just pulling me down. And now I could see the whole waves going up above me. I was below the tube. The tube was above me and I'm underneath. And I'm trying to go up. There's a current that keeps pulling me back in. And the first time it dawned upon me that maybe today is it. I'm going to die. And immediately I said, no, not possible. I haven't traveled enough. And I said, yeah, I have to go up. I have to go and get air. And I think when we were kids, all of us would have played in the swimming pool and you've held your breath for the longest that you can. And if you remember that feeling, I was reaching that point when I know I have to breathe. And when I knew that I had to breathe, it was too long, too far up. I knew I was not going to make it. That's when I stopped struggling and I said, this is it. I'm going to die today. And when I said that, I was like, and then I started to shake and I'm about to take a breath and I see my parents, I saw my dog, I saw Cape Town, and I took a breath and water just straight goes in here. And the pain is excruciating. And the next thing you do is you cough. And you cough remaining air that you have in your lungs. And the next thing you do is you inhale it back, but it's water that's going in. And I think I did it about 4 or 5 times until my body stiffened and I passed out. And then suddenly I felt like a tap on my shoulder. But there were no t-shirt on me because it got ripped off midway. And of course, now I'm breathing only to this side. And I was facing inland because I could see a wall of water going in and there was a tree in front of me. So I quickly grabbed hold of the tree. And when I looked up, the coconut trees were, I could reach it. The night before I was telling my friends, I said, well, coconut trees, taller than our Malaysian coconut trees. So when I looked up and I knew the fruits were within arm's reach, I knew I was at a certain height that was really high. And I knew I was facing inland. So I was turning around to see what was coming. And there was another wave, and it just, before even I could do anything, it ripped me from the tree, and 2 more waves came in, and now I'm facing the ocean, but I'm going backwards, horizontal, and I'm trying to grab on anything to stop me from being pushed inland. And I saw 2 ropes, and so there was a coconut husk rope and a nylon rope, and I picked the nylon rope because I thought the coconut husk rope would snap. The minute I touched the nylon rope, I had rope burns, and I kept going backwards, and this rope was still holding onto it until it came to the end. There was a knot, and that stopped me from moving back further. And I had to bring my right hand. That felt like ages. And finally, I was holding onto it, and I could not even time my breathing or hold my breath because I could hear the water in my lungs juggling around, and I was like, I'm trying to and 3 more waves came, and I said, this is it. I'm letting go again, God. I'm ready to go. And I let go of the rope, and the waters just stopped. And it stopped raising and coming towards me. There were a total of 7 waves that I saw. And they were above me when I was in the water. I'm sure there's a lot more. I'm not too sure how many. And so when I finally stood up, the water was at my stomach height. And I was coughing, and I could see people, but the brain was not registering noise. So it was people with their mouth open running. And then all of a sudden I felt this thud from behind, and I could see things floating by me. And I turned behind. All the water that went in was now coming out. But it wasn't just water. It was debris, dead bodies, vehicles. You could see hands sticking up, legs sticking up. And then everything was just really fast going out again, and I'm being pushed back to the ocean. The distance was ocean, cabana, land, and then owner's house, road, house, garden, railway track. I landed on the railway track. Wow. But now, so when the water was coming back out from the people's houses, passing the railway track was pushing me back into the ocean. But I got the nylon rope again. And this time I reached the other end of the nylon rope as it was pushing me. It was a laundry line. And I tied it around my waist and double knot, and I just leaned against the tree, and I was just, coughing profusely, and I could just see everything just going by me, and there's nothing that you could do. There's a lot of concrete debris, bodies, vehicles, tuk-tuks, buses,
But I mean, what an experience. You remember it in such vivid detail.
I know.
Until now, I mean, it's been what, 16
16
years?
years. After 16 years, I can safely say it feels like 1.5 weeks ago.
Gosh, gosh. So what do you think? I mean, okay, you couldn't have predicted that. That was like
No.
nature, you know. Um, but what do you think saved you? Was that just sort of keeping your wits about you? I don't even know how you do that with
I think the,
all
I
these
think the
things
fact that
happening.
I think the fact that I did not know how to swim saved me
Really?
because because I gave up within 10, 20 seconds. And what happened was the wave carried me around. If I had
Right,
battled it, then I would have gotten tired, as
right,
did most swimmers in Thailand. Happened to them, they drowned because they thought they could swim. Divers as
ah,
well. But
right.
and I think because I gave up very quickly because I was struggling for breath, and I think it was less than 40 seconds, 50 seconds, and and I think that's what actually saved me. And then after that, it is once you have given 100%. You don't know it yet, but and I hope you don't never have to discover this. But once you've given 100% to fight for your life, there is another 5%. That
Oh,
5%, you will fight. You will kill someone to survive. Whether it's in
really?
water, yeah,
Wow, wow.
yeah.
So May, let's go to May, since that was just like, what a story. You've had encounters with humans, right? That
Multiple times, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you've had any encounters with nature like Chris has, but humans, you know, you kind of, what is the main element that you need to deal with, you know, disastrous humans, put it that way? What, in your experience, I mean, can you talk about some of the experiences that you've had? And
Yeah, so not the most recent one, but the one that maybe affected me the most was when I was in Sri Lanka. This was maybe 5 years into solo traveling, and I was just cycling around town. I rented a bicycle from town, and I was just cycling around the city, discovering all the monuments and all these ancient ruins. And you know, I took all the precautions I thought I had taken. I was dressed modestly. I planned to go back before the sun set, so it was still bright out. And then I was just cycling through a paddy field, and when you reached somewhere that looked a bit dark, I thought it was time to turn back because it was safer. But even then, as I was turning back, a young boy on the bicycle, just a young man, he wasn't a boy anymore, he was a man, a young man on the bicycle, just started following me and cycling closer and closer to me. I couldn't outcycle him because, you know, it was a rental bicycle and he was obviously much stronger than me. And he just kept trying to talk to me. My name is Sahan, what is your name? My name is Sahan, what is your name? Where are you from? He kept asking me questions, and you know, I shouted at him, I asked him to leave, and he just kept cycling closer and closer to me. And at one point, he just stuck his hand out and put it on my groin, and he looked me in the eyes and he said, I want to. I'm so sorry for the expletive. And he was just staring at me. I just remember his really dark yellow eyes, and he was wearing a red shirt. And then I shouted at him, and he turned around, and then he turned back and he followed me, and then he put his hand on my groin again. So that was 2 times. And it was just so terrifying because I was in Sri Lanka alone. I was staying in the guest house, and I was the only guest in the guest house at that time. And it just became a really complicated 2 days of going to the police and lodging a police report against the guy, and the police brought him and his friends to my guest house, and I had to identify immediately who was it, which boy touched you, and their parents were standing next to them looking at me like begging me not to identify them. And that was really scary.
That's something you don't think of also, that you go to the police for help, and then they make this, they do this type of things which actually doesn't help, right? I mean,
they had good intentions.
Yeah, but they weren't thinking. I mean,
yeah.
Now those people knew where you lived, you know, or where you were staying.
I left the guest house immediately the next day.
Yeah, I lost you a bit there.
Okay.
Anyway, my internet is unstable apparently, but you know, I mean, that's what freaks out a lot of parents when we let our young people go, but how what would be your main weapon in dealing with this type of situations, do you reckon?
Unfortunately, I have to say that I haven't been really good at dealing with it or fighting back. You know, you're in the moment, you have a fight or flight reflex, and I always find myself just being frozen and paralyzed with fear. And in the several cases that it has happened to me, I just shouted. And the more I shout, the louder I got. I just scare them away. So the boy in the bicycle got frightened when I started shouting. The guy, there was a taxi driver in Jordan who got frightened when I started shouting as well. And then for me, it was always about taking precautions before I get into a situation like that. But sometimes it still happens.
Yeah, and the thing is, you know, people seem to think that if you go to a developing country, that's where they're the most dangerous. But I've had people following me like in Paris, you know,
Definitely.
where you think that it's so civilized, Paris and all that, but I find that if they, you know, and this happened to me a long time ago when I was a young reporter and I was going for work, actually walking around, you almost always get, you know, someone wanting to chat you up and all that. It's very uncomfortable, and I guess, you know, if you're female, it tends to happen a lot more. I don't know whether it happens to guys as much, but I imagine that so far all the stories I know have involved women. So not taking things for granted. I think even in places where you think that you're okay, or is where, you know, or not taking things for granted with people.
Even with people you think you can trust, if you're couch surfing somewhere, you're staying at a friend's place, speaking from personal experience as well, like unpleasant things can still happen. So you always need like sort of an escape plan or know how to get out of it when you're stuck in somewhere, whether on a bicycle, by the street, or in someone else's house.
Yeah. Priscilla, you talked about that, right? You always have to have an exit plan. Is that what you said before?
I was lucky to go through anti-terrorism training with the media company I was with, and one of the things they teach you when you are out there checking into a hotel, always find out where's your second exit, where's your staircase.
Right.
Because, yeah, you know, they teach you just to be alert of your surroundings. Carry a spare wallet which is empty, doesn't have your IC or your, you know, important documents. So if anyone comes up to you, someone came up to me in South Africa and put a knife in the side of my stomach and said, give me your money. And I said, I only had 100 rand and a 20 rand note. He said, keep the 20 and give me 100. But I had to take out the wallet to show him. Yeah. So if you have two wallets, you can always take out one and say, I don't have any more money. I've already been robbed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. This sort of tricks, right, of the trade. Yeah. Sorry,
no
were
point,
you going to add something?
There's no point trying to fight them physically, because you will lose. They're so strong, men. They're stronger than us. So I would normally try to talk my way out of it. And if there isn't a way out of it, then you just, like what May did, you know, you speak louder, you trying to attract attention. Yeah.
I find a lot of time the guys that approach me or you try to do something funny, they're just trying to get a reaction out of you. They're just testing the waters. And if you show like a sign of weakness or you show willingness to listen to them, then, you know, they try and take even more advantage of you and do something even more drastic. So I always just look like the angriest person in the world, so people don't even try to approach me.
Yeah,
I really do. I have like this angry face I put on when I'm walking on the street on my own.
I dress so shabby. I dress so shabbily. I don't even comb my hair. It must look horrible when I travel, which is great actually. And then plus, you know, I'm a bit big, so yeah, people think twice. In Brazil, on Copacabana Beach, this guy came up to me and I was wearing a Bob Marley t-shirt, and he says, "Hey, miss, what would you like to have? You know, some ganja, cocaine, heroin." He went the whole list, and I just looked at him and I said, "Why don't you sit down and let me buy you a beer?" And you know, after 2 hours we were talking. He's like, "Oh, you're different from all the others. Would you like to go to La Paz tonight with my cousin and his wife?" And I said, "Isn't La Paz the most dangerous area in Brazil?" And he goes, "Yeah, but you're with the locals." And I said, "Well, two things could happen here. you could try and, rape me and try and kill me, but I'm going to have to try and kill you before that happens. So what's it going to be? He says, no one's going to die tonight, but we'll come and pick you up. And you know what? I have a mantra when I travel, you never decline an invite. You never overstay a welcome. So he invited me and I said, okay. And I went that night and I had the best time because I was with the locals. Yeah, there were some gangsters with guns and all that, but I felt safe with them. But so,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, never decline an invite and never overstay your welcome. Wow.
Never decline an invite and never overstay a welcome. Yeah. Someone says,
Yeah.
come and stay with me. Don't I stay for 1 month,
Yeah. But,
yeah.
yeah. But, well, I think most people err on the side of caution and just say no to everything. But I guess they can also miss out on things as well.
And I do carry a small knife with me, so.
Oh,
I have to.
Okay. I carry pepper spray, but I always forget to use it.
Oh, really? It's got to be within reach, right? To get at. But okay, let's not just talk about all the horrible things. What's the best thing about traveling solo? What is the best thing?
After you, May.
I'm like trying to think, I'm going through a list of all the things I love about solo traveling and trying to pick one out. It's so difficult.
Well, imagine not having to consider anyone's interests or what they feel like or anything.
Yeah, of course. You're never worried about ruining someone else's experience because you can be selfish, and that's always fun. But because I started traveling at my formative years, I was 18, 19, 20. It was a really good journey of self-discovery for me to sort of understand who I am and who I really want to be and what I want to do in life, and get away from your family and people who know your family. So when you are solo traveling, you can really be honest with yourself, and you're not worried about people who know your family and they'll talk. So you can be honest with yourself and be honest with the people around you and just be yourself, your true self. And that was a really good journey of discovering who I really am and being comfortable with that. In my early 20s, when I started traveling, yeah.
Right. Priscilla, what about you? What's the best thing?
Oh my God. So if I'm going to a certain place, I'll know when I'm arriving, and then I know when I need to get back to the airport in 2 or 3 weeks' time. And then whatever happens in between, it's party time. So
I never have a plan when I travel. Are you like that also?
Never
No
plan.
plans.
Ever. Oh my God.
Not even where to stay or anything?
No. Okay, so like Brazil, I did because everyone told me I was going to get robbed. And I thought, okay, the first night I will get a place to stay. And then from then on, I'll figure it out. And which is what I did. But that's the thing, the unknown, the unexpected turns me on. It's just like when I'm on the ERL, on the KLA train, getting to the airport, I'll be like, holy shit, they're going to the Arctic? And I'm like, and it's good to feel nervous because then you're going to be completely alert at all times. And then you arrive and you're like, oh my God, okay, what now? What next? Okay, chill, let's go and have a drink. Let's see what's happening. See where's the, backpackers area. And then, and then you'll meet somebody. And that's the thing about traveling alone. You are never alone when you travel alone.
That's the biggest misconception, is that you're lonely when you're a solo traveler.
You are never alone. But if you go with your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, husband, wife, you're bound to have a fight. And then you'll be really alone.
Bound to have a fight. Yeah, well, yes.
So, but I've also had couples join in with, with in my travels. I met this Greek couple on the Saharan desert in Morocco, and they taught me how to do the Zobra dance, the Greek dance.
Yes.
In the middle of the desert. Yeah. So I mean, traveling alone is, you get to change your mind anytime. And May, you're right. You get to be selfish every time.
Right.
You want to stay on, you're going to stay on. Yeah. And then it's so good. I went to Laos, which is where I met my Dutch friend. And we are travel buddies till today. We were in Van Vieng and I was like, do I go to Luang Prabang? I'm like, nah, just, next time. So that's the liberty, and that's what I meant, making a decision almost at the same time. And it's not going to affect other people, but it's going to change your life forever. And that travel buddy that I met, Yaron, He's my traveling buddy, and we will meet. Like where do you want to meet this time this year? Like Madagascar. Okay, cool. See you there. Boom, and we're there. Yeah, rent a motorbike and then we go, and that's the beauty
Yeah.
of you foster.
Spontaneity, right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to get to the questions from our guests. And there's a question about finances. Like, how do you finance the trips that you do? Do you just save and save and save? And also, actually, I'm curious because sometimes solo travelers are penalized because, like, a room is more expensive than if you are sharing, right? So how do you manage that? Either one of you.
Okay, I'll answer the question about saving. So I in my current job, I'm getting a comfortable pay, so that's fine. But previously, I was, the normal fresh grad pay. So I worked 2-3 jobs. I moonlight. I did freelance writing. I had a blog, which was like another means of making money. And I always had a separate bank account just for my travel. So I have like 3 bank accounts. Like one is like my current, and one's my long-term savings, and one just for travel. And every month I put maybe like 5% of my monthly salary in it. So when it comes time to travel, I just withdraw from my travel bank account and feel no guilt. And
right.
Yeah, I found that the most effective way for me to save up for a holiday.
Right. But do you have a particular holiday or a destination in mind that you have to save up for, or you just look at what you have and you'll go wherever that budget takes you, or what?
Yeah, I usually try to go for the cheapest holiday because I've never had a lot of money. So like whatever's on sale, whatever spur of the moment AirAsia deal is happening, like let's go there because it's cheap, or let's go there because I can afford it. So I let my sort of pick my holidays that way.
Yeah. Priscilla, how do you do it?
I think the one trip that I had to plan my finances and ban myself from traveling for that year was my trip to the Antarctic. Yeah, because that was quite expensive. And I had started saving the minute I knew I wanted to go. I started saving, so I had a good 1 year's savings. But normally, if I decide to go to a certain country, the airfare cannot be more than 7,000 or 6,000. And then when I do arrive to the country, if I know I want to cross borders or cross states, I'll try to take a night bus so I don't pay a night's room rate. I sleep on the bus. I also carry a hammock with me. And so most of the time you arrive at a certain time and you've got a place to put your hammock in a restaurant, you can ask the owners, you just put your hammock and you've got your passport, your money on you, and your backpack is like either chained to your ankle or something. But so if I can sleep for free somewhere, I would.
Right. And I mean do you go for homestays and things like that, or hostels? Which is the cheapest alternative for?
I've done hostels in New Zealand. Yeah, I've done hostels in New Zealand. Homestays, if it's beachfront. In Cuba, we did homestay. That worked out quite well, actually.
Dorms are really great for backpackers because then you only get one bed. I mean, if you're comfortable sharing a room with like 10 other people, dorms are really great because they're cheap and you have access to friends, people that can become your friends, and everyone's like-minded. So dorms has always been my go-to place.
And for all you all out there listening to this, so along with dorms comes flatulence and snores.
Yes, you have to put up with it. That's the only downside.
Well, so either you sleep with music, or on flight get one of those earpieces and
my daughter and friends stayed in a dorm once in Amsterdam, and unfortunately it was kind of like mixed dorm, and there were all these extremely drunk people in the dorm. I mean, it got so bad that the hostel had to call the police.
Wow.
And
but because backpacking is so popular now and women are traveling so much more, dorms are also adapting. So now they have women only dorms. So so those are always a good option.
Right.
Or travel during the low season and stay in the dorm, and you can have a 10 dorm room all to yourself. That has happened to me before.
I normally take mixed dorm. I don't know, just sleeping in a room with all females, sometimes they can go mad. So you should have a guy in the room as well.
Oh, right. So, questions. A lot of people are telling you, Priscilla, that you need to write a book about
Oh,
your
yeah.
experience. I
Me
think
too.
we'll all want to read it.
Thank
Um,
you.
and okay, one question from Elton. What's the best site link to research for solo travel from both of you? How do you do your research, by the way?
I normally Google about the country. I find out about the weather, the currency, and then where's the
Right.
backpacker spot, and then what is it that I want to do in the country. And then
Excellent.
when I get to the country, I will take a map. Back then, now you got to have Google Maps. But that's about it. And then from there, you just figure it out.
Lonely
Right.
Planet sucks because everybody travels using the Lonely Planet route, and you get like
Yeah, never use Lonely
things.
Planet. I use Lonely
Yeah.
Planet because that's where I'm not going to stay. I'll stay the next block.
But Lonely Planet is good to get an idea of the places to go and sort of what to expect, and then you sort of go off the beaten track, avoid the Lonely Planet crowd. So I use Lonely Planet to sort of get an idea of like the attractions. Sometimes they have some really good tips in there. I always research about like the local customs and sensitivities. So as I know, Zafigo does a really great job in writing about what women should wear and what women can expect, how men perceive women, and how you need to conform to that. Zafigo is a great site. I can help
Thank
you
you.
plug it in.
that's how we started, really, to address those questions. So there's a question about how long would be your solo trips? I mean, how long do you plan them for?
Minimum 2 weeks is my go-to.
Does that depend on how far away you're going?
No,
Or?
anywhere I go, I think 2 weeks is the minimum to see or understand the country.
A place, right? And even if it's a big country where you have to quite a lot.
I mean, 2 weeks is not enough, obviously, but that's why I say it's a minimum. And then you have to get back to work at some point.
Yeah. What's the longest you've been away?
9 months for me.
Wow.
Yeah. I saw someone in the link who's traveled for a year and a half, so I don't think it's that long, 9 months.
That's awesome. Wow.
Well, I am.
That's a
Yeah.
luxury. What about you, Pris?
It started with 1 week, and then it went up to 2 weeks. Then after I did Southeast Asia, it went on to 3 weeks. But I have to speak to my bosses and tell them because when you go towards the west, the time difference, you always gain a day when you get there, but you lose a day when you come here. So it's like 4 days of traveling. And then the further I traveled, the more time I needed. So thank God I had rock stars for bosses, and I still do have one who's a rock star at the moment, and he understands my passion for traveling, and so yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone's asking, what's so good about Antarctica?
How long were you there?
How long were you there? Did you do the Drake Passage? That's the thing that puts me off.
Oh my God, the Drake Passage. Okay, so that picture that's on the profile, so that's me coming up after 5 days. To cross I went to the Drake Passage. I went to Antarctica on a sailboat, and I was there for 3 weeks, 21 days. Just to cross took me about 4 to 5 days. But the sailboat was always tilted 45 degrees. And it was 5 days. That crossing was 5 days. And after I had soup one day, everything came out. So I never ate again for 5 days. I'd take sips of Coke and water. And then when I finally, Christopher, the guy I was chatting in the cabin with, he gave me a tablet and he said, "You look like death, but you're still chuckling away." He gave me a tablet and I took it on the 5th day. And then I, freshened up, wet wipes, powder, comb my hair. You don't want to shower in Antarctica. You don't need to anyway. I came down and asked him, why did you give it to me on the 5th day and not the 2nd day? What was it? And basically it was tablet that you give chemo patients after their first round. And that's what kept everything stable for me. And crossing the Drake was very challenging, but would I do it again? Yes, I would. What's on the Antarctic? A lot of ice. What I miss about the Antarctic is the silence. There's this phenomenal silence.
What season did you go?
I went on. It was the midnight sun. There's only one window season between December and January before temperatures drop again. And so it's between December and January.
I'm actually reading a book about Antarctica called The Ice Diaries.
Ice Diaries, yeah.
It's written by a writer who got a writer's residency in Antarctica.
Wow.
And it's amazing. It's so informative. All the different types of ice that
Yes.
you just never knew existed. And I haven't
And
finished, but right now she's in a ship that's stuck in the ice and can't move.
you probably need an icebreaker to come and get them out or something.
Yeah, something like that.
But
Yeah.
I mean, you see animals. You see animals that you've never seen before. You see different kinds of species of birds. You look at them and you wonder how come they're not dropping dead at below 40 degrees, and you're all suited up and tanked up, and you know. But it really felt like another planet.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. Just
And
completely different.
I think by the fourth or the fifth day, I lost, and I didn't even give a damn what day, or month, or time it was, because it was the midnight sun, so it was daylight 24 hours a day.
Right. Is that weird? I mean, how do you sleep?
So you have to force yourself to sleep, actually.
Oh. And could you do it? I mean, or is it just
The first
exhaustion?
5 days, so that seasickness tablet doesn't do anything. It's just supposed to make you sleep. Your dreams get a bit weird and real, and but you forget everything when you finally see. Because when you start approaching Antarctica, you start with small patches of ice, and then it starts getting bigger, and then suddenly, like size of Mid Valley, it's there, and then suddenly it's like boom, and this is there's this huge continent in front of you, and you have to make 2 landings. There's no ladder. You have to like stretch from the top, put one leg on the window, and I'm the shortest, clearly. And then you're on a dinghy, right? So try not to fall, because if you fall, it's 7 seconds before hypothermia gets to you. And if there's a man overboard, you never take your eye off. You just scream, man overboard, and then somebody will come and throw one of those floating things. But yeah, we were briefed of all of that.
Yeah. What an adventure.
It was phenomenal. If you can, take the time, save your money, go. It's there and it's waiting for you.
I've had the opportunity, but I'm just not great on ships, so I'm waiting. So there's a question about how to travel light. I mean, you said you went from 14 t-shirts to 5 t-shirts.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have your own. I mean, it's very important to travel light, right? When you're solo. What do you travel with? What is indispensable?
My Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I have a Swiss Army knife too. I have detergent so I can wash my clothes in the sink. So I only bring maybe 3-4 t-shirts.
I use disposable underwear, so there's no worries there, especially when I'm having my periods. And yeah.
All the way?
No, not all the time. Especially when I'm traveling on a bus, or when you're traveling, and when we finally get to where you want to chill, the fancy ones can come out.
Right. Victoria's Secret comes out, right? But yeah, so packing must be an art in itself for traveling solo. Any particular tips that?
I think I always like to bring things that are versatile. So a sarong can be a blanket, can be a bedspread on dodgy dorm beds. It can also be a beach towel, and it can also be a skirt if you need to look fancy. I see people traveling with 3 pairs of shoes, one for hiking, one for the city, and one flip-flop. That doesn't make sense. You just need 2 maximum, a pair of shoes and slippers.
Correct. Yeah.
So
and then whatever you access most, always pack that the last and put that on top. Your facial wet wipes, your chargers, your toiletries, your toothbrush, put that on your side of your backpack, so that even when you are between changing mode of transportation and you need to use the toilet, you can always go and wash your face, brush your teeth.
And always bring tiny toiletries, because even if you're traveling for 2 weeks, if you run down on soap, you can fill them up in the hostel, because the hostel has soap, so you can just fill up your tiny bottles, and you don't need to bring the giant bottles with you.
Correct.
It's still hostel soap sometimes.
Yeah.
And
the other thing is, if you have old clothes that you want to get rid of, so if I had old t-shirts, I would wear them. So there's someone in Madagascar that's wearing the Hits.fm I'm a Fugitive t-shirt.
Yeah, you pass that out at the end of your
Yeah, and so you pass it on, and it's not damaged in any way. But
Right.
because when you start your trip, you've got a lot of energy, but by the 10th day, the 15th day, or the third week, you're tired. So you want your backpack to get lighter. And what you
Right.
do is you give your clothes away a bit, not all of it. Yeah.
Right. But what about Antarctica? I mean, surely you needed special clothes and things
So
like
yeah,
that.
I invested in thermal tops, gloves, and I also have um, a blood flow problem. So I was told that I cannot travel to winter countries. But when I
Oh.
did my research and I spoke to my doctors, so I've got gloves, I've got my beanies, I've got my scarves, the proper pants and top as well. You don't want to layer too many clothes. If you just buy the right material, it'll keep you
Right.
warm. Yeah.
Right.
And the outer jacket should always be a windbreaker and an anti-cold.
Waterproof.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And if you're
So-
traveling to hot countries, so if you're traveling to hot countries, I always bring quick dry shirts because if you
Yeah.
wash it, it dries overnight. You're
Right.
safe.
Right. Right.
And you don't
The
carry
type that
dirty
you go
laundry.
jogging. The type that you go jogging in and things
Yeah,
like
it
that.
dries so
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a question from Cecilia. Do you buy travel insurance?
Always.
What do you?
I
No.
don't.
You always
After-
or you don't?
I started after the tsunami because I lost everything.
Right.
Yeah. So lesson learned.
And what do you get back? I mean, you lost what they all.
I lost everything: clothes, camera, the backpack. I mean, the backpack that they found 4 kilometers inland by another local. That was another miracle. It only had my plane ticket, wallet, and passport, but I lost everything else. So coming back, I had to replenish all of that.
But you got it back? You got it back?
No. I got my plane ticket, passport, and wallet. Everything else was lost. So if
Ah,
you take insurance, you're not going to get back everything you lost, but you get money to buy back.
right. What
Lost.
you need.
Yeah.
And May, why don't you buy travel insurance?
I only really buy travel insurance if I'm doing sort of like a risky sort of holiday. So recently I went camping in Oman for 2 weeks. So just 2 weeks plane camping. That I got a travel insurance. And luckily I did because our flight got delayed very badly and managed to get some money back from that. But if it's like a normal city holiday and I'm not doing anything too exciting, I don't bother with the travel insurance.
Right.
I don't know if it's
Travel-
recommended. You probably want to get it.
Yeah, it's usually for flight delays and things like that, right? But losing stuff, I think that can be a real pain, real losing money and passports and things like. Actually, if you lose your passport, how do you travel back?
I think you have to go to the embassy and sort it out.
And they'll give you some sort of.
I think they give you a paper documenting, and then you have to come back in a few weeks to pick up your passport or something like that.
Right. So there's another question. What was your cheapest and most expensive solo trip? Which was the cheapest?
India.
India?
Yeah.
Really?
I think Myanmar was my cheapest. Somewhere in Southeast Asia, Myanmar was cheap.
What was the cheap part? I mean,
hotels are cheap there. Like food is cheap. Hotels are cheap.
Yeah.
Then you can take the buses, and they have really good public transportation system.
In Myanmar.
They have because their travel is booming there, so they've sort of started building tourist amenities. They have interstate buses that goes quite frequently, and it's not too expensive. And in the case of Myanmar, because it's not totally commercialized yet, it's still growing, so everything is at an affordable. They're not taking advantage of tourists yet, so things are still affordable and cheap.
Right. Would you agree, Priscilla? Or India? You said India.
India. India. I think my flight ticket was like 1,003, and then I spent another 1,000 ringgit for 2 weeks on food, accommodation. I ate 1 meal a day. Like I'll eat like about three something or 4 something, and then I'll keep half of that for dinner. And then I stayed in a place that did not have heaters, even though it's winter. So what I did was I slept with my layers of clothes, winter jacket, yeah. And so I think I spent about less than 2,500 ringgit for a 2-week stay in the Himalayas.
Wow, that's pretty good. And what about the most expensive places that you've been to?
Europe
think-
is expensive just because of the conversion rate. I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I know where was Dubrovnik in Croatia was insanely expensive. Like a
Really?
hostel, yeah, because a dorm bed, Dubrovnik is where they shot Game of Thrones, so everyone is there. A dorm bed is 200 ringgit a night.
What?
Yeah,
A
that's like
dorm?
starting
That's a
price.
hotel.
Yeah, it's a cost of a bed in like 10 sharing rooms. That's how much
Wow.
things start in Dubrovnik in Croatia. Don't go there; it's not worth it. I don't recommend it.
It's quite beautiful though. I've been along the
Yes.
coast and it's very beautiful. But they did say go before the Russians take over and
Yeah.
build gigantic hotels and things like that.
The Game of Thrones crowd is taking over. So go during winter
Yeah.
when the locals have the place to themselves.
Right. Right. Yeah. So we one of the best. Okay, one question is there was a one of the best things about travel is to try the local and perhaps exotic food. Are you adventurous with food when you travel solo? And
Yeah.
what was the most memorable meal that you've had? Anything tricky?
And
I had some African animals balls in, I think in Uganda. It was.
Did they tell you? They did tell you what it was?
Yeah.
Or-
They said it was either. Well, it wasn't a wild animal. It was, I think, one of those herbivorous, like a deer or something.
Oh,
And I was
okay.
like, and of course, once again, when someone invites you to eat, you eat.
You can't turn it down. Yeah. But
Yeah.
was it okay? I mean, you didn't have to like
It
quietly
was fine because
spit
it
it
was
out.
barbecued. It was grilled. In Alaska, they offered me whale blubber,
Oh,
and it just did not go down. I mean, I just chewed and chewed and chewed, and my jaw was getting tired. And finally, when they're not looking, and I just quickly put it in my hand, put it in the tissue, put it in my pocket, and it made its way out somehow or other. But yeah.
what about you, May?
in Tonga, I was very surprised when I saw my John, the guy who invited me to stay with him. They were eating fish because it's it's an island. It's an island life fishing village. He just caught a fish and he just took it out, and I don't think he even skilled it. He just dipped it in the sea water, sliced it open, and ate it like it was chicken wing. Like the way he ate it was just like he didn't fillet. He just ate it off the bones, and it was just
Wow.
like a fish, and it was just like so weird to see sashimi being eaten that way. That was surprising for me.
But you tried it as well?
I had a bite of the fish. It was very fresh, I have to say. It just came out of the ocean. It was so fresh. But it was just the way of eating it was very, very weird.
Huh. Okay, this is an interesting question. Have you ever canceled a trip because you felt that a place became too dangerous, or did you ever have to cut short a trip because things got a bit, bad? Have you ever had to do that?
In 2002, when the Osama bin Laden cell was identified big, and there was some in India, I was stopped. I was on a motorbike, and I was stopped like 2 a.m. And then they told us that don't come out of your hotel, night curfews, because they're expecting there might be bombs that go off and stuff like that. So, but no, the other mantra I have is panic when the locals panic, whether it's the
Right.
air stewardess, the village person, the boatman, the busman. If they run, then you follow them. But so at that point, the cops did not say it was necessary to leave, but we just knew that bombs could go off unexpectedly. Yeah.
But didn't you at least want to know where not to go, where the most likely bombs are supposed to go off?
I
Or
don't think anybody knew where it was going to happen, and if it was going to happen, it would happen where the Americans backpackers are.
yeah, I guess.
So there's no running really.
Right, exactly. May, have you ever had that happen to you?
Physical danger. I think like the most dangerous place I've been to was not Croatia. It was Egypt. That was when there was still bombing in the border near Sinai with Israel. I think I don't really remember anymore. That was my first solo travel trip, and everybody told me not to go, but I went anyway because I'm like the bombing. This was after the revolution. Cairo
Right.
was still sort of in pieces, but tourism was slowly getting back to normal. Everyone was really desperate, so the touch was very aggressive. But the locals all seemed like life was back to normal. So I just avoided going to Sinai where any potential bombing across the border could happen, and everywhere else was fine. So I didn't cancel any trip.
Oh, okay. I guess so. Knowing what's going on in the environment, I guess, is important. Reading the news and being not being oblivious to everything.
And if the locals seem calm and they're like, yeah, calm, don't worry, then it's sort of an indication that things in that area or in that specific state is okay. But then, you don't go to the
panic when the locals panic.
Right, exactly. You're full of mantras, which I think we should put out.
I was on a flight once, and I started shaking, and I just got my drink, and everyone was like, and it started taking a dip, it dropped a bit, and then everyone's putting their seatbelts, and I was just looking at the stewardess. The minute she put the trolley on brakes, I was like, all right, showtime. So you learn as you go every day when you travel. That's the thing. You're never prepared for what's going to happen, but you will know how to react, and eventually you know how to calm yourself down, and you'll know how to make the right decisions.
Yeah. Okay. So let's not ignore the elephant in the room, which is this current pandemic, which has scuppered everyone's travel plans and everything. Did it do that to you? Did it spoil your plans this year? Because there's also some statistic about how many people are planning solo travel in 2020. It seemed like 25% of all travelers were thinking of solo trip in 2020, and that must surely include both of you. So how did you feel? What happened?
I was supposed to be on a flight out to New York on March 13. March 12, Trump had closed the US. And next month, I'm supposed to be in Mongolia. Neither of it's happening to this year. Of course, when COVID came up, and I told myself, thank God, I did a lot of travels. And so what I did was, I'll ask myself, so where do you want to go today? Bolivia? And then I'll open up the folders of my pictures. And I'll take myself back to where I traveled to. And I told myself that I would have no right to mourn and cry about not being able to travel. This is the time for you to just sit down and just think back about all your travels. So no, I didn't have any shit for days of wanting to travel. It's coming. Next year's coming, but I'm trying to. It's not going to be the same. Traveling is not going to be the same. So it's going to be so organized, and everything is. You're going to be told what to do, where to do, and that's kind of like slowly putting me off.
Right.
So we'll see. Yeah.
And you, May, what were you planning to do?
I was planning 2 trips this year, the ones that I have in mind. I was planning to be on a mountain on my birthday this year, mid-June. I wanted to either be like on Everest or in Tanzania, one of the mountains. I want to climb a big mountain for my birthday. So that didn't happen. And I wanted to take my parents on a little trip as well and let them try backpacking. So that's not happening as well. But like Priscilla said, it's nothing to be sad about. Like it's just being postponed. So that will happen next year.
Yeah, I think the main thing I learned about the COVID is to want to be grateful for all the travel that I have done.
Yes.
And I'm so glad I made those decisions to go those places then.
Yeah.
And I guess the main thing is that once you get the opportunity, just do it, and not think too much, because you never know when this sort of thing is going to happen again, right? And everything just
I told myself since the MCO has been lifted, every weekend I've got to be away camping on a beach somewhere to catch up with the 3 months, 4 months that we didn't.
Yeah.
Right. So are you solo traveling domestically?
Yes. Now? Next month I'm doing the whole peninsula loop alone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Just what? Road tripping or?
Yeah, just road trip. Find a beach, put up your tent, put up your tarp. It'd be interesting to see what locals come up to us and start talking.
Yeah. And do you think Malaysia is a good place for solo travel?
I do. I think it is a really good place for
solo travel. I mean,
not just for. You're both locals after all, but for foreigners, if any, foreigners.
It started in Malaysia. It started, for me at least, it started with the beaches, East Coast, you know,
And
Langkawi.
Malaysians are friendly, so
Yeah.
everyone speaks English, so it's so easy for anybody to travel, like
Yeah.
any foreigner to travel in Malaysia. I think it's one of the easiest countries to start solo traveling. Like everyone speaks English, the public transportation works,
And Thailand as well. Yeah.
and safe
and safe. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a question, I think, which you have answered. What's the best month to travel to Antarctica? You said December, January, which is summer down there, right?
Yeah.
And then where do you go where do you go camping? Do you want to tell people where you go camping? You wouldn't become solo.
There's many places in Port Klang, in Port Dickson, Malacca, East Coast. There's tons of places. You can actually camp out between Kuantan and Terengganu and further up as well. On the beach sides, women, of course, do not watch your dressing, be covered, t-shirt, you know, pants. But just be mindful which state you enter, and be Malaysian. That's it. And you probably get Malaysian attitude back at you, which is warm and friendly.
Right.
And you can always just look for the Hutan Rimba Eco on the Perhilitan website. Those usually have camping spots.
Yeah. Right.
But having said that, if just a gentle reminder for those of you that go hiking in forest and jungle, if you do jungle outings, after the last 4 months, there are many cases of leptopyrosis. I've lost 2 friends and nearly
this is the rat thing.
Rat's urine, basically, and you normally get it at waterfalls. So if you all decide to go swimming in waterfalls, just be very careful of this. And the symptoms normally, when you come back, you have like diarrhea, and then you'll be throwing up, and then one by one your organs start to shut down. Last year I almost lost a friend, but he went to Twin Peaks, which was in Fraser's Hill, and he got it there, but he's still alive, thank God. But just heads up for all those who do hiking.
Right. I thought with waterfalls, with the water constantly flowing, it should be okay, but it's not.
It's a lot of stagnant water in waterfalls.
Yeah. So all your water that splashes on the side, so rats will come.
Right.
Even hotels with swimming pools in the forest. So because rats could just come and one piss and the whole pool is contaminated. So
right. We've gone a bit over time, but we're going to have to end soon. And Geeta Menon is talking about traveling local on a wheelchair. Neither of you are on a wheelchair, but maybe Geeta will get you in for next season to talk about the challenges of traveling, if you are differently abled, as they say. That's a good topic. We normally end with a sort of a general, what have you learned in life sort of question. So both of you, from your many extensive travels, your many adventures, what do you find the most educational, or whatever? What are the life lessons that you've learned from those travels? Either one of you.
After you, May.
Do you need more time to think? Is that why?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
I think with this webinar being about independence is very apt, because solo travel really taught me how to be independent and what independence truly means. And for me, solo traveling has taught me that, I don't have to wait for other people before I can make amazing things happen for myself. If I want to go to a new country and have an adventure, I can make that happen for myself. If I want to, buy a house or get a new job, all this I can do on my own. So I sort of shifted the conversation from, can we please do this, to, I'm doing this, would you want to join me? And you sort of take charge of the narrative in your life.
Bravo.
Right. Yeah, excellent. And Pris?
Yeah. What have I learned? Never wait. If you're at a place, at a destination that you want to go, that you are at, or you're planning to go to, do it. don't say I will wait next year, I will save this money, I will, settle the apartment. Don't just do it.
Exactly. You know, you never
You
know
know,
when a
yeah,
pandemic is going to
Yeah.
hit.
and because there isn't a fixed time for anything. You're in charge of your life. You
Mm,
got one shot to do something that you want to do
right.
it. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
if you want to
Exactly.
wait, then if something else is more important than traveling, then that's also up to you. But for
Right.
me, when I started traveling, I realized that I'm not about to go and get married and have kids because, and my mom sat me down one day and she said, when are you going to get married and have kids? I said, do the math, ma, it's not going to work out. I would have to start living only when the kid is 20, then I will hate my life. And so I gave that up, and no regrets at all, and there's so much to see out there, and you, yeah, never wait, just do it.
Exactly. That's what I've learned too
Yeah,
with this pandemic.
and
So
yeah.
we've come to the end,
Yay.
and I really want to thank Meme and Priscilla for joining us today and giving us all these insights on solo travel. What amazing adventures that you've had. I can only wish you more adventures once we are able to get out there again, but always travel safely and smoothly and everything. And to everyone else, thank you again for joining us, both here on Zoom and on Facebook. We will be taking a short break of a month or so, maybe slightly more, but we will be back with season 2. And if you have any ideas of what topics that you'd like to see us talking about on Hello Zafigo, please feel free to message us on our Facebook page or anywhere where you see us, Instagram, and give us the ideas, and we'll try and meet them all, because there's so many topics that we could cover. But thank you. It's lovely to see all of you. Hi, Charlie. Um, and join us again the next time. So watch out for our announcements. Thank you again, Meme and Chris, and everyone. Stay home, stay safe, um, be patient. We'll all get to go out there and travel once again. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.